Look at that engage. Look at that engage. Look at that engage. Holy shit. Hey guys, this is MinishCap1. Just recently, I re-achieved the spot of rank 1 Singed in North America, playing exclusively Predator Singed. First, I'm going to explain what exactly Predator does for Singed and what it allows him to do in-game, and then I'm going to compare it to the other popular choices and explain my thought process on Predator. Recalling after the first 2 or 3 waves allows Singed to spend 300 gold in order to buy Boots of Speed, which essentially act like the old Season 5 Home Guards boots that you were elo to purchase as a boot enchantment. What you do is you just activate it and you run back to lane in the early game. Let's talk about why that's important. In my opinion, currently, in high elo, Singed has 0 winning matchups. For this reason, I think that Predator allows Singed to have a good amount of flexibility that he normally would not otherwise be able to have. It allows him to be back in his lane sooner and achieve a level of CS that he normally would not be able to due to being forced out of lane very easily. I know how silly that sounds, because essentially what you're doing is you're taking an entire keystone and shifting your entire early game playstyle simply in order to maintain CS. But the thing about Singed currently right now that I've come to realize is that is simply what you have to do in order to maintain game impact. There are other Singed playstyles that we can compare to Predator. One of the most popular Singed playstyles currently is the Conqueror Singed playstyle. The objective of the Conqueror Singed playstyle is to win lane by dueling your opponent. The problem with this is that you're forcing Singed to be a Conqueror duelist against other champions that are specifically designed to be Conqueror duelists, such as AD Bruisers. In terms of the laning phase, Singed ends up losing out on CS because he can't adequately duel the enemy top laner, and he ends up losing out in terms of game impact. With Predator, you are power spiking on each individual item that you buy. With Conqueror, you need a combination of 2 or 3 different items: Rylai's Leandry's Proto Belt, Rylai's Proto Belt, things like that, in order to have a good amount of dueling potential, team fight potential, and game impact. In addition to this, the runes that you take when you take Predator allow you to better get into a fight and maintain early farm, as opposed to the runes that you take when you take Conqueror, which are all centered around PvP combat, and that is not something that Singed excels at early game. In my opinion, for a champion which has 0 winning matchups, there's no point trying to force him to lane. With the Predator build, you are turning the laning phase into a farming phase instead, which you then use to go power farm, you proxy behind the tower, you go gank mid, you go gank jungle, you start roaming, you start getting map control, you start warding up everything, and that is how you have higher game impact in the early game with Predator. Obviously, you will still go for kills if you see a kill opportunity, you'll still go for a fight or a skirmish if you see the opportunity, but the crux of the early game relies around farming. At the end of the day, this is a cheese strategy and something that I'm doing out of necessity. Whenever better options in the meta and in terms of itemization and early game options exist for Singed, I don't know if I will still keep playing Predator, but for now, with so few options in items, matchups, and game impact for Singed, I think that this is probably the way that I want to keep going. Rune's primary, I'm taking Predator as the keystone, obviously. I'm taking then Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection, and Ingenious Hunter, and let me explain my choices. Taste of Blood for early game lane sustain against the hard matchups, which is just about everybody for Singed currently. You can go ahead and take Cheap Shot against easier matchups because it will synergize well with Rylai's and Deadman's Plate and Fling. I'm doing Eyeball Collection over Ghostboro. Eyeball Collection because with this build you want to switch to blue trinkets when you can, and those will not stack up your Ghost Poro. The reason why I switched to blue trinkets is because of Ingenious Hunter. Ingenious Hunter, in addition to lowering the cooldown of your Predator Boots enchantment, also lowers the cooldown of trinkets. Now that means that you can use your blue trinket much more often for things such as scouting Baron in the middle late game, lighting up the map, putting it behind the enemy team when you're about to have a team fight in order to have your team understand the positioning of the enemy champions. This is very, very useful and should not be underestimated. Generally for secondaries, I'm going Inspiration. There are other options you have for secondaries, but most games I'm running Inspiration. I'm doing Minion Dematerializer and Time Warp Tonic. The reason why I'm doing Minion Dematerializer is because Singed has a lot of problems clearing minions in the early game and the late game. Mid game, not so much, but with the way that minion health scales on cannons and melee minions, and with the way that he has very, very, very low base damages, it means he has problems in the early game and the late game. I put 2 on cannons and 1 on melee minions. This helps him clear those cannons in the late game, which he has a lot of problems with because he has a very, very bad attack speed. And it helps him in the early game by just evaporating those waves a little bit faster and helping him maintain higher farm and a little bit of safety because he doesn't have to be farming constantly. He can clear the waves a little bit faster. The other rune I'm taking is Time Warp Tonic because it just gives you a little bit of movement speed when you want to walk around a proxy, a little bit of movement speed because you can activate it during your Predator, a little bit of movement speed here. It always helps Singe just a little bit. One of the other setups you can try if you're not feeling the inspiration is Nimbus Cloak Celerity second. Nimbus Cloak, obviously really good with Singed. One of the best runes, if not the best rune in this tree for Singed, because it has good synergy with his ultimate in order to help him grab that engage. Celerity helps a lot whenever you have your Predator and your fully stacked Deadman's Plate, just to be able to get from point A to point B faster, and it does have decent synergy with Singed Ultimate. The other option that I really like for Predator Primary is pairing it with Precision Secondary. Obviously you want Legend Tenacity, which is just essentially a free 30% Tenacity for Singed. It helps him be slippery. It's very important for him. And then you either want Triumph for healing or Last Stand for damage, because you're pretty much never going to be above 60% health in a team fight. Itemization. You're going to want to start the game with a Dark Seal and a refillable potion, buy your tier 1 boots on your first back, and then a corrupting potion. This is where your itemization can diverge. Against AD matchups, I really like to go Deadman's Plate first and then go Rylai's, and against AP matchups, I like to go Merc Treads first into either a Protobolt or a Rylai's, depending on what you need. Your 6-item build is essentially just the standard Singe 6-item build. Rylai's, Leandry's, Deadman's Plate, Abyssal Mask, Moralonomicon, but the difference is the order in which you buy those items for what you need in the game. For summoner spells, I am taking Ignite and Flash every game. The reason why I'm not going Teleport or Ghost is because Predator essentially replaces both Teleport and Ghost. Predator is like a soft teleport because it allows you to get from point A to point B very fast on a much lower cooldown, and it's like a soft Ghost. It's weaker in that you lose it when you're in combat, but it's stronger in the fact that it has the same movement speed at level 1 that level 18 Ghost will give you. As far as gameplay goes, you're still going to want to do most of the things the same. Just like normal, you're going to want to look to level 1 proxy if they don't scout you. If the enemy does scout you, then you just go and fast push the first 3 waves normally, recall, buy your Predator boots, and then Predator back to your lane. Essentially, what you're doing is using your Predator to maintain the highest level of farm that you safely can, and then once it's off cooldown, you're using it to roam to objective fights such as early game dragons, jungle invades, mid lane skirmishes, etc. You can also use it after you're done proxying a wave behind the enemy tower to go and gank mid lane very fast before the enemy mid laner expects you to be there. As a solo laner in the mid late game, you will be clearing side lanes. The problem happens whenever you don't have teleport. Against the enemy top laner who does have teleport, whether or not they're behind, theoretically they will be able to have a higher game impact at this stage because they can easily join their team. However, Predator again covers this weakness because after you're done clearing your wave, you can pop your Predator and with your Deadman's Plate, run to the team or what potential team fight might be happening so fast that it actually doesn't matter that you don't have teleport because you're able to be from point A to point B very, very quickly. One last small tip. If you have Baron buff and Deadman's Plate, you can actually run alongside your wave and pop Predator and max out the Baron buff minion's movement speed at 500 movement speed. The reason this is possible is because Baron buff gives a movement speed buff to the nearby allied minions based on the highest movement speed of the nearest allied champion. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this guide. It was a little bit messy, but I think I got all my points across. If you have any questions about Predator Singed, please go ahead and leave it in the comments, and I will do my best to answer it. I am streaming pretty much every day on twitch.tv/minishcap1. I hope to see you guys there, and have a great day.